Welcome to Get It Done Entrepreneurs, where we talk with founders of companies who bet on themselves and won. My name is Rich LeBrun, and I am the founder and CEO of LeBrun Advisory Group. You can find us at rlebrun.com. Our mission is to help our clients build wealth through business ownership. Stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest. Our special guest today is Courtney Lukitsch, founder and chief communications officer, CCO at Gotham Public Relations firm, which she founded in 2002. She's a strategist, change management expert, among many other things, which you'll learn about here shortly. She's also an author of a new book called Creating Significance: How to Build a Brand and Legacy Career. We're looking forward to hear more about how that book came about. She's an expert and executive coach and career mentor, a global leader in change management, organizational transformation. Courtney consults with top firms and brands nationally. She's a founding board member at Women and Worth in the US and One Golden Nugget in the UK. She has been honored in CEO Today Global 2022 and among the best women in the PR industry since 2020 by PR News. Courtney is a Forbes Council member in business communications since 2019. She advises C-level counsel on multiple startup brands, educational and fintech platforms. Gotham PR has clients in the top 30 US markets and in 30 countries on every continent worldwide. The agency has offices located in New York, Florida, and London. On a personal note, she loves to travel. She calls herself a globetrotter. She loves art and museums and meeting new people and restaurants. So she's currently in Miami. With that, I'd like to say welcome, Courtney.
Thank you so much for having me. So great to meet you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this interview, and you definitely have a wonderful background, and I know our listeners are going to be excited to hear what you have to share. So let's start there. Tell me a little bit about your story. First of all, but tell me more about your business, and what led you to start that business, and a little bit about your background.
Well, I must say that similar to Conditions Today, we started the agency in 2002, shortly on the heels of 9/11. And in New York City, I can tell you, it was a pretty dramatic time. So I am always an advocate of starting a business in somewhat of a challenged market scenario, because that's where innovation is born. I think that given experience in New York, I realized working at other agencies that I was doing a lot of business development and marketing, and realized that I could be doing that on behalf of my own clients, that I could cultivate and curate and enjoy growing businesses from startup into what are now, many of them, legacy businesses today. So that's kind of the gold nugget, I guess I would like to impart, that it's always a good time to start a business in a down market. And it was really kind of the secret to our success.
Okay, were you working for corporate America and then you made that leap?
Well, I had many corporate clients. I worked at two big agencies, one of which was very immersed in technology, and our clients of record were Sony and IBM at the time, and that was Internet 1.0. So it shows you how long I've been in the business. And now we're talking about the metaverse 3, right? And sort of the next wave with crypto, blockchain, NFTs, and the like. So I've seen a tremendous evolution. But yes, I do have corporate experience. It is very different when you go out on your own as an entrepreneur. So I think that I wrote the book Creating Significance to speak to that in terms of case studies, what it looks like on one side of the workforce versus the other side as an entrepreneur, to encourage people and also to avoid some of the pitfalls that are easy to succumb to when you're first starting your own business or practice.
Well, since you mentioned the book, let's just jump right in there. Tell us more about the book in a little bit
Sure.
more detail, and where people can find it, et cetera.
Yes, it will be coming out. We pushed our publication date from the fall into early 2023. I don't know if people understand what's going on in the publishing world, but so many books have been written and are being published that they're actually kind of running out of paper. I'm not exaggerating. So
no kidding.
Part of that supply chain challenge that we keep hearing about. So I have performed, a few different online webinars and partaken of podcasts such as this one to interface with different kinds of entrepreneurs, just to pre-promote the book. But really, it talks about where businesses started and where they are through the lens of really great examples. And that can be anything from solopreneurs to bigger, more corporate entities that I came in and we worked on sort of change management. Sounds like a very broad sort of specialization, but it's really kind of tantamount to turning a ship in choppy waters in real time, right? And finding due course and finding a path forward. So, it can go from the smaller entity to the very large sort of more corporate focus, which I think, it'll be interesting. A lot of resources are available today that weren't available 20 years ago. So, I wanted to mitigate sort of that from the front by saying, from the start, that it's really about surrounding yourself with experts. And I think that so many more experts and expert platforms exist today to help entrepreneurs that didn't in the past. So it really is a great time, again, to start a business, because you will necessarily find support that wasn't available maybe when we were starting.
So when somebody reads your book, what's the one or two things you want to take away from them when they're finished reading? Oh,
well, first of all, I would like to impart sort of the fact that, again, these resources exist that are very helpful, that there are so many even municipal and local conduits to help facilitate businesses. I mean, we're living in an innovation economy, and in many cities, New York, Chicago being one of them, Boston, Miami, Los Angeles. Those are 5 examples where there are so many resources to help start a business. So it's really a motivational kind of guide and how to, form a brand. Really, it's not a how-to book per se. It's really more what to embrace and what to avoid, I think, along the way through the lens of some really expert practitioners and brands. So I've been very privileged to have such great clients and to work as counsel with them. So I just wanted to share that, and then, potentially turn it into even like a masterclass series. A lot of people don't understand what PR is. They don't understand what business development means. They don't even, marketing is such an amorphous term, as is branding, that I don't think people really can get their heads around it from a more public facing perspective. People inside the industry, of course, understand it.
No, I would totally agree. Most of us have a misconception. Now, this book, you say, is coming out in the fall?
Originally it was scheduled for the fall, but we are pushing it to the early 2023, which is, winter, I guess, January.
All right. So we'll be looking for that book. And its title is, again?
Created Significance. And that's coming out under Worth Media, which is part of Simon & Schuster.
Okay, will that be found on Amazon as well?
Yes.
Okay, of course. All right, well, let's go back to when you started your company. What were some of the mental hurdles? What was going on in your head? Did you have any fears, uncertainties? Were you just totally excited? Was this, just close your eyes and jump in type process? Give our listeners some thought about how, what kind of things you were thinking about before you decided to go all in, and then what was the tipping point?
Right. Well, it's certainly a very enervating experience, meaning energizing, exciting, nerve-wracking, all at the same time. Fortunately, upon founding, we signed 2 really big clients from the get-go, very big name clients, that allowed us to kind of what we refer to in the entrepreneurial world as bootstrapping. So we never had to take money, from outside investors to grow. It was all incremental and scaled, largely through service billing. So again, we're living in a different environment where there's a lot of VC and equity, kind of floating around. It's a very different climate. I do encourage entrepreneurs to try to bootstrap so that they don't have to give away parts of their businesses. From the beginning, I guess it was people were impressed, again, because I'd worked at other agencies. They thought, wow, this is really bold, particularly on the heels of what had just happened in New York. And, I think there's a tendency with entrepreneurs to really push themselves. Again, part of this book is, you have to take care of yourself to take care of others, particularly if you're in a service facing business, but also as a leader, right? You have to be able to take care of your team members, your clients. So there's this excitement when you start your business that you're going around the clock, right? And so you have to remember to get off that treadmill occasionally and also do things for yourself to stay motivated and help motivate your clients. I always sort of see myself as this somewhat aspirant, ideator. I go in and I help facilitate all these sort of thoughts, strategies, and opportunities that may or may not have occurred to the client, and then make them happen. So there's a big wish fulfillment aspect to what we do. I mean, PR is just one part, I think, of what our service offering is. So we're atypical for most firms. most firms, want to live in the daily news cycle, which we certainly do, but I think our term is longer perspective because we're working in service of press. First of all, we respect all of our media partners, but also to help our clients drive their business. So that's a little different than just getting press for press sake, right? It's very business driven.
Were you, did you have the entrepreneur spirit always, or is this something that just evolved right at in the heat of the moment in a down market?
No, I think, there were family members, certainly people that I admired that had entrepreneurial backgrounds. I think to go for it on this level, you have to be very self-motivated. Again, I think there's something to it. And I don't know if you've talked about this on your podcast, where you surround yourself with, if not like-minded people, then people who are motivated to work independently or entrepreneurially. And I think there can be some naysaying, when you first go down this path, that people want to poke holes in it and sort of say, well, are you making money? Are you successful? And as we all know, it takes time to build a successful business, right? And so, there are 4 phases. I was reading this yesterday from, very noted sort of business scholar who said, in the beginning, you're euphoric and you're excited. And then the next phase, you're getting critical momentum and you're getting recognized and you have reputation. The third phase, you're really at your height, but you're also not saying no to things. You're saying yes to everything. And then the fourth phase, there's so much saturation that if you don't carefully cultivate and curate how you're spending your time, you could just be overwhelmed with, everything that you spent the last, 3 phases building in your business. So I think, there's a lot of wisdom in that to scale your own sort of behaviors as you advise your clients to, right? I mean, it's harder to practice what you preach than to just go in and sort of advocate all of this, strategically client side. So you have to apply to your own business what you're applying to the client.
Yeah, I think it's great. A great wisdom too. And great. Thanks for sharing that. With that in mind, looking back, what would you do differently, if anything? Looking back over those 3 phases and 4th phase.
No, it's a great example. I mean, I feel really fortunate in New York. I was in a very kind of go-go environment where everything was new and very embracing of startups. And as I said, we were rewarded almost immediately with great clients. And I do believe, at least maybe it was a time in that market, that success begat success, right? Because when you are performing at a high level for really great clients, then other clients necessarily want to come into that fold. And I think specialization is really important now more than ever. And I think, we found our niche, which is really the marriage of design, development, technology, and a very forward-looking orientation that I think a lot of firms wouldn't necessarily be comfortable taking on, because oftentimes brands or talent or companies will come to us before a category even has a presence in the market, right? So we're getting to see everything sometimes in beta or prototype. And again, being able to think sort of conceptually and empirically is very valuable to not only crafting marketing and launch plans, but helping reporters understand, like distilling complexity into news bites, and also why the public should care, right? A lot of clients don't necessarily understand that media won't publish things that aren't public facing. There has to be a reason for the public to be interested to publish news, even if it's Fast Company, and it can be, research from Mars, but unless it has some application in the current market, they're not going to publish it. So
I'm amazed at what you do. And there's so much information out there. We're in information overload. We're exhausted.
Right. Yes.
Okay, but here you are, a PR agency trying to corral that information and produce something that is meaningful. How do you do that? How do you get this? How do you sort through all the noise?
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful question. I'm glad you asked it, because it's really a question of research and relying on specific outlets, always cultivating, I think, a readership and a following for specific experts, writers, journalists, right, who cover and have the breadth and the ability to work on a lot of these kind of stories and or features. Also, I want to underscore collaboration, because I think there's a lot of power in, I came up in the generation of business where, there was obviously, and there still is, a lot of competition, but this idea of co-opetition, where sometimes you align entities and then you make something even stronger, right? So the power of partnership and collaboration, I think, can't be overstated. And that's where we have, as a sweet spot, kind of cut through the noise. Because again, earning that reputation and that respect, that when you introduce one entity to another, that they're necessarily going to bond and create something pretty, special together. So that's kind of a little trade secret right there.
In fact, one of my questions I was going to ask you, can you think of a key decision that had the biggest impact on your success? Would that be it, to embrace the collaboration?
Well, I think it's really becoming a trusted resource for clients at a very high level. I mean, you have to be extremely discreet. I mean, sometimes on an hourly basis, I'm getting top secret information and taking the time to process and the time to let events unfold. As I said, it goes back to surrounding yourself with experts, having that expert council where you can call a lawyer or call another expert strategist or somebody who will help you, if not circumnavigate a problem before it happens, at least anticipate it so that you have a strategy to, provide a solution. And so, I pride myself on that, is definitely helping clients almost as like a secret weapon. And I think, my closest clients would all say that that's, they're few and far in between. It's a very honored sort of advisory role to be put in.
Fantastic. Okay, so I know you're a reader, just from some of the conversation we just had, what you shared. You're a CEO. The old saying, it's lonely at the top. Okay, so how do you keep yourself motivated? How do you said you surround yourself with mentors? Do you read certain things? What keeps you focused and keeps you again motivated as a CEO and leader?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think there's so many tremendous business resources. I mean, LinkedIn obviously it's a great resource to at least get you excited about certain ideas, and you can order the book or follow the author. But I've always run a kind of multi-generational practice, and I think that's emblematic really of the workforce today, is that I have young people on my team, I have senior people on my team, I have clients that run the gamut of, like 20 years old to 80 years old. So I do believe there's a lot in the mix that we learn from each other. So that keeps me very motivated. And also, I love these younger generation entrepreneurs that reach out, because, they can be hiring their 30-year-old peers or what have you, but they're coming to somebody who's more seasoned and has sort of seen all the twists and turns, right? And can kind of impart some knowledge and certainly a tremendous network to help them grow their businesses. So I think that's kind of the secret sauce really of how we work. And again, it's at a very high level. We can't say yes to everyone. I've said no more recently, I think, than I have in a really long time, just to make sure that we're operating at the highest standard client-wise that we possibly can.
Sure. Fantastic. You're a lifelong learner. What are you learning right now?
Oh, that's a great question too. Well, technology, always. I'm pretty much working a lot more in the AI space, artificial intelligence, and that's anything from resource management to sort of lead generation and just harnessing different tools to kind of make work easier, right? So I think that is going to be a constant, and pretty much is on a daily basis. But to your earlier question, when a client comes to us, we like to make sure that we know as much as we possibly can before taking it on. And I don't know how much you know about the PR space, but a lot of times the clients will take an initial meeting and expect you to be an expert in their industry. And, sometimes there is a ramp up stage, but most clients now don't have the patience, time, or resources to hire or partner with a firm that doesn't understand their business. So before we say yes to even the first interview, we do a deep dive research to see if it really is a fit. And if it's not, then we refer that prospect elsewhere. And sometimes that's a better engagement.
You made a couple of key points in this conversation. One is you started your business at 9/11, if I remember correctly, right?
Right after.
Right after, a really tough time. We are now facing tremendous headwinds, very unique ones, by the way. And, with labor and recessions and a war in the world and all this political unravel and, just a lot of disruption in our country. How are you navigating that? How are you addressing some of these issues for your own company?
Yeah, no, it's a very timely question. It's I think really just staying grounded. I don't want to say staying positive, because I think that sounds like kind of a oversimplification, but really being, again, a motivator for the clients to take on what we can and can't do realistically, right? I think the past few years have been so exponentially sped up. And from what I understand, that will continue to be the case in technology. I mean, we're going through such a tremendous, as you say, upheaval, and all of these things are happening for a reason, right? If you study history and you study projections and forecasting, all of this is interrelated. So I think really being at the forefront of trying to find solutions. And fortunately, I do work with so many visionaries, architects, designers, information architects, you name it, people who basically help us forecast and operate future of the world. So yeah, I feel like we have to be a part of that change, right? And do meaningful work. So that contributed to the book as well, because creating significance is different than creating success, right? So significance should be lasting and impactful and sustainable.
Sure. Now, did I hear you say, I don't want to misquote you, that this is a good time to start a business?
Yes.
Okay. Can you, I got to hear why.
Well, in any down economy, you have the time to plant seeds so that they turn into roots. And then when you ideally come out on the other side of it, which will probably be closer to 2024, you then will have established, a foothold in the market. And again, I don't want to say that from a generalist standpoint, but more from a place of specialization. So it is a very conducive time. And again, I would encourage people to look for resources that exist to help people start businesses, because they're all around us. Innovation hubs, all kinds of funds, expert resources that didn't exist previously. So it's a very conducive time actually to start something up.
Yeah, I've heard from many CEOs like yourself who do really believe that. They said great opportunities have come in down economies.
Yeah.
And if you just take a step back, be willing to pivot,
Yep.
maybe take a look at your own business, pivot, adjust, take a look around you. I love the way you refer to look at your resources available today. It's just amazing. People, a lot of wisdom out there to be shared and how to navigate and to look for opportunities. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, there's a great organization that I joined, and even though they told me I was rather seasoned, I ended up being, rather than a participant, I was flipped into an advisory role, but it's called startups.com. And I would encourage any of your listeners to check it out, because they have these amazing sort of advisory verticals depending on what your industry is and what your interests are. And they're really peer-to-peer groups. So they're, I belong to one that's all CEOs, and then there's others for people who are just, looking for capital, or there are others that are looking for, specific scaling opportunities and hiring practices and so forth. But I have just been astounded at the people I've met there and how fantastic an organization it is. So that's a great example of something that's literally costs nothing and has such a strong cost benefit ratio.
You're a woman in the CEO. Is the paradigm still out there? Is the glass ceiling still out there? Is that an old story, new story, current story? Do you have any advice to some of our women listeners?
Yes, it has not been my experience. And again, because I get to work with great visionaries, these are people who are very sophisticated, very well educated, all around the world. And if anything, I think they put their business and their interests in my hands, and it's a very big responsibility. So there's no ceiling to that or their expectations of me.
Fantastic. Okay, I want to give you an opportunity. I have a couple more questions for you, but I do want to give you an opportunity. Help us novices understand what PR is, because we do have this multi-thought process of what it really means.
Yeah, it's really any news, business, brand, person of interest to the public that is conveyed through the media. And media, as we now know, can be social media, it can be digital media, it can be electronic media, it can be what we call traditional media, print media, right? So it's really how an agent such as myself educates the media on behalf of a client and then conveys what it is, like problem solution dynamic within the national news cycle. But again, it's an oversimplification, maybe not simple enough, but.
Okay, well, let me ask you another question. Is PR, let me answer it differently. Should every business use PR? Small business, large business, or is there types of businesses it doesn't make sense?
No, it's a great question. There's a difference between publicity and I think strategic public relations or media relations, right? And so, as I've stated, our focus is really on driving business. publicity is a little more vanity press, so and so won an award or an accolade or is having a special event in honor of XYZ, right? Or a new movie coming out or what have you. That's a little more on the publicity side. And I think with public relations, some small businesses do benefit obviously from having exposure, particularly if I'm thinking of one in particular that I met through that organization I referenced, Startups. I did a presentation, sort of like PR 101, right? That I also have taught in universities for budding entrepreneurs. And this woman was starting a local dog park community service, which, as you know, during the pandemic turned into a big thing because everybody got a puppy. It seemed like very, very high saturation level statistically, demographically. And I recommended that she do a couple placements in local media. And I think I asked her to send it to, I don't know why I suggested Time Magazine, but she immediately got picked up, her story, and then it just took off, and so an exposure for something that small and that locally focused got amplified, right, through just people knowing about it. And I think that's the beauty of the smaller entities doing it. The larger companies tend to sometimes be a little hesitant to take on, they initially start with marketing, and so they have their collateral, their brochures, their sales materials, their promotional materials, and then they don't necessarily or are intimidated to engage, on a higher level with a strategic, PR firm. And we would go in and say, well, what projects do you have to promote? What services do you have to promote? What are the desired outlets? What's really going to move the needle in your business? And then we media train against those goals and objectives to try and place them, in the most impactful media possible. And that's a process and a methodology that takes, upwards of 6, 9, 12 months.
It does. Okay.
To accomplish.
Let me ask you a question. Our listeners are twofold. Generally, they're CEOs, owners, founders of companies like yourself, mm-hmm. who are, looking to navigate the headwinds, maybe asking themselves, should they add another income stream? And then we have people who are at corporate America who are looking to leave. What advice would you have for them?
Well, again, I think avail yourself of all these different not only opportunities, but resources that exist to see where you might find a niche or specialization. I think there's so many advisory councils. Advisory Cloud is a great one if people aren't familiar with that. Boardsy is another one where you can sign on to be a board member for whether it's startups or a company that's pivoting, what have you, that's compensatory. Or you can just get your feet wet, if you just always wanted the experience of being on a board without the full obligation of, lots of meetings and fundraising and so forth. So again, yeah, I think, and start following what's in the business press if you don't already. Entrepreneurially Fast Company is a great one for sort of breaking innovation, just to get your head around what's out there and where your skills might apply or where you might add value.
Sorry, I had the mute on. I had some background noise. Thank you for that. Tell us again, how can we get your book, and how can people find you if they would like to know more about your services?
Oh, thank you so much. LinkedIn is a great place to find me. You can find me under Courtney Lukitsch. You can find us under Gotham PR. You can find us online at Gotham PR. Again, because we've been around for 20 years, we have a pretty healthy footprint online, and there are other places where you can see articles that I've written, podcasts that I've recorded, etc. And as I said, the book will be out with Worth and Simon Schuster in early 2023, Creating Significance.
Very good. Well, Courtney, this has been wonderful. I thank you for your willingness to share your wisdom with our listeners. We'll have this podcast up and running here shortly, so everybody can get a copy of this and send it along to all their friends as well. Again, thank you for your time, and I wish you the best.
Thanks, Rich. It's been great.
Rich LeBrun here. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, Get It Done, Entrepreneurs. If you are a successful business owner who would like to be on this program, please visit us at rlebrun.com/podcast and fill out the form, and we will reach out to you. If you got something out of this interview, would you share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag GetItDoneEntrepreneurs. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, rlebrun.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time.